Oh Lord, I don't want to be recording. Record. Here we go. Here's our recording. All right. Well, welcome everybody officially. I've just hit the record button, so we're on. It is September 29th, and today we are super excited to have Haylee back with us. And Haylee, I think I always spell your last name wrong, so I probably say it wrong. Ziegler?
It's Z-I-E, but that's okay.
I did it right in other okay. Sorry, see? And I check myself every single time.
It's okay. Yeah, it's Ziegler. Like I always say Ziegler like a zigzag. So
you know what? I'll fix it right now so that for forever it's ready. It's there.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry.
You're fine.
So anyways, we're very excited to have her back to talk to us. If you were here last year, you talked about reading, right? It was literacy. We had you on for a literacy section. Yeah, awesome. So today you're going to join us for interpretive activities. And if you're like we were talking before we started, I think all of our kids are exhausted and tired. So it'll be good to get a little refresh and some ideas from you. Look, that's my reminder to hit the record button. Since we actually do have a guest this time, I just want to remind everybody, if you see anything, maybe a grammatical or a cultural thing or something that you want to address, save it for an email and I will forward it on to Haylee. We just don't want to stop what we're doing to maybe do a quick grammar lesson. We don't want to do that as adults. And there's my email. You can always send me an email. So today our plan is we're going to hear from Haylee. Then we don't have an item. We'll talk about whatever needs and wants we have, give you a certificate, and then they will be done. So Haylee, I think that I have given you power to take over the screen.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
So I just put in the chat slides. I make my slides in Canva. So there's a view only link there. And then anything, some things I have linked in here. Let me get presenting and then I'll share my screen. Then you can click on and interact and then you have access to it. For the time being. So I'm gonna kind of like reposition myself here so I can see both screens here at the same time. So but thank you so much for joining me for interpretive reading and listening activities. I am really excited. Okay, there we go. I'm really excited to talk. I am at this is my second year at Teays Valley High School. So I was here last year. But just some fun things about me. I'm a Teays Valley Viking. I'm here tonight until about I'm going to go with 8 p.m. My kids are doing hallway decoration for Spirit Week. So it is outer space themed. Today,
Ohio, right?
Yes, in Ohio. Okay. And just a little bit about me. I also host Lang Chat on Twitter, hashtag Lang Chat on Twitter with some other fantastic people. We're on every other Thursday night. And then I also have an obsession with Starbucks, just as like a heads up. And I also love social media. So I run social media for our Central Ohio Union and then for Calico Spanish. And then this is my adorable son, Ralphie. He is an ornery orange cat who loves to be in the dryer whenever possible. So just some fun facts. But we will go ahead and get started with why we're here. We're going to talk about interpretive reading first, then we'll go into interpretive listening. And then please let me know if there's any questions. And then Shannon, if you see a question in the chat, just feel free to cut me off at any time. It's fine to answer it.
I will do that.
Okay. So we are going to talk about, I have 4 favorite activities to do during reading, and they are gallery walks, stoplight reading, stop and jot, and then give me 5. So we're going to first talk about gallery walks, which I actually have some examples here. Might as well have them out, so I might as well just show them to you. But gallery walks for me, I really like to use gallery walks to break up a longer text. So if you're unfamiliar with how a gallery walk works, basically you take chunks of text like this and you post it all around your classroom. And you might require that students read it in a certain order. These, for example, these are little like mini biographies. I think this one is for famous Hispanic women. We do this in March for National Women's Month. And these, my lights are going to turn off. I'm sorry. They're on a timer. These basically, you can post them around the room. And your students typically have like a question sheet that they need to fill out as they read. And it just gets students up and moving around. It adds movement to the reading. You can design it so that the kids can go in any order. So like these, my students don't have to start at this one. They can read whatever biography that they want. And I just really like chunking up the text. So I think the queens of gallery walks would be Senorita Spanish and Profe Zulita. If you're one that's like, I want to see it in action, maybe I'll buy one off of Teachers Pay Teachers. I buy all of mine from there. I do make my own. One that I've made or going to make here in the future is I'm going to make a gallery walk with an infographic. So using an authentic resource. And I'm going to just kind of cut up the different chunks of this infographic and create questions like, what product is being sold in this image? How much does it cost in this country? How much does it cost in that country? Maybe what's the difference of it? I personally put my questions in the target language. I know Shannon, you're French. What language does everyone teach? Just so I know.
So you have a split crowd.
Okay.
Jennifer and I are French and Danny and Maria are Spanish.
Okay. So I have some examples in French in a Wakelet, but most of my examples on here will either be in English or Spanish, just to let everybody know.
We're used to it. Don't worry.
Okay. So I really like doing this because students can talk about, the author's purpose and main idea after answering the questions. And it's using, that authentic resource, the realia that I really like to use and think is important.
Haley, I'm a huge infographic fan, and I never thought to do something like that. I've always been like, hey, if I give them all this stuff, they can just pick what they want to understand out of it. But I really like what you've done here. That's great.
Well, thank you. So I am really excited to do that. I'm going to hopefully post on Twitter soon when the next time I do a gallery walk. I've been really bad about taking like pictures and like sharing the things I'm doing in my class this year, but I think that just kind of speaks to the nature of the stress that we're under at this current moment in time. I think
we all think this year's supposed to be better. Like last year we thought it's going to be great. And now it's like, when does it get great again?
Right. And I can say like the behavior in my school, our freshmen, I just want to go over and like hug those 8th grade teachers because like they did a fantastic job with them. They're doing a great job given all of the things. However, I can't get ahead. I cannot get ahead. And I do not know what is happening, but I cannot get ahead this year. So
the exact conversations we're having in my school too. And it's centered on the freshmen. It's centered on just bizarre little behaviors where we're like, what are you doing?
Yes.
Like, what are you doing? You're in high school. Okay. Sorry.
No, you're fine. So another activity is stoplight reading. Stoplight reading can work with any text that you have. It can work if you do readers in your school, if you just have short stories that you type up and create on your own. And basically, kids need 3 different colored writing utensils. I do the traditional stoplight colors. It doesn't really matter whatever they have. And they highlight words in green that they know 100%. Like they 100% are confident and can tell you, yes, I know this. I know these words. In yellow, they highlight words that maybe they're not sure of, or they had to look in the glossary for, and it just kind of reminds them that they might need to go back and figure out the meaning. And then words in red are words that they absolutely do not understand, and they cannot figure out, they cannot decode them. And I like stoplight reading for myself because if I'm walking around and I see a lot of yellow and red, I know that this text is not comprehensible to my students, and I want them to be able to comprehend it. So then I know, okay, I need to go back and make sure that, we have a solid grasp on this vocabulary. Maybe I need to contextualize it a little bit more, or just tell them what it means so that they're able to understand the text that's in front of them. What's really nice too is with stoplight reading, you can almost use this as like a pre-assessment and then a post-assessment as well, because if you're planning on teaching and working on the words that are within a text, but you want to see where they're at before you actually go over that vocabulary, you can give them a stoplight reading. You can look at the stoplight reading and say, okay, these are words that I don't need to spend a ton of time on, but here are the words that I really need to circle, ask questions, make sure that they fully grasp. And then you can give that same reading to them in a post-assessment and have them do another stoplight reading and kind of compare what words do they understand now versus the beginning, and maybe where do I still have learning gaps. So I like it because it's visual. It's super, super easy for me to just kind of flip through and start to see the patterns and connections. So then we will talk about stop and jot. So if you're teaching upper level learners, so this might be, I would say maybe end of Spanish 2, or I would say any Spanish or French 2, and then definitely 3s and 4s. If you're reading if you're reading like a fiction text, stop and jot is something that I think we have to train learners to be able to do. This is something that my kids are doing a lot in their English classes, taking time to actually process what they're reading and making actual meaning of the text and connections, not just understanding the words, because there's a difference between understanding the language, knowing what a word means, and actually being able to make meaning through comprehension. So there's a lot of different ways that you can do stop and jot. I know our English teachers will use chart paper, and they will post like what they want the kids to be doing their stop and jot over. So like there's predictions, envisioning, character feelings, and you could pick just one of these and say, hey, we're going to stop and jot about the character feelings in this particular reading today. And you can give them post-it notes and just have them jot on their post-it note, and you could have them post it on chart paper and discuss. They could have a reading notebook. This is something that I'm considering doing. So when we do reading activities, they're going to have a specific section actually in their binder where we jot and think and write about the things that we're reading. Because when we write about what we read, it actually is going to elevate their level of comprehension of the text that they read. And I can't say, yes, it's going to increase their acquisition. I can't be 100% certain, but I definitely think it's not going to hurt their acquisition to be writing in the language about what they just read. Any questions so far? No? Okay, cool.
Nope, nothing in the chat. We're just all
right.
excited to see your stuff.
So, and then this last one is called Give Me 5. This is just really, this is easy, especially for summarization. You can just I print out like a copy of a handprint, and I have them write the main idea in the middle, and then they have to give me supporting details about what we read. We actually did this today. We talked about the running of the bulls. And if your kids are having trouble coming up with supporting details on their own, what I did is in the middle, I wrote what. So in Spanish, I wrote what, and then they had to tell me who, when, why, how, and how many, because we were talking about we were comparing how many people were running in this race versus another race that we learned about. So this just Give Me 5. It's really easy to kind of have them be a little bit more creative with writing questions. And it also would help them write a summary if you're reading a longer text and you want them to summarize the main idea with their supporting details. It's a good way for them to just organize their thoughts. So those were during reading activities, and I actually ended up adding 5 after reading activities. So I will not take credit whatsoever for this next one. My school has a literacy coach, And she came up with this, and I was just like, this is genius. So after students read, they have to come up with an AEIOU reflection. So the A stands for an adjective that they had that was in the text that stood out, an emotion that either a character had or they had when they were reading the text, something that was interesting, something that made them say, oh, and something that made them say, I don't understand. And they organize it in this graphic organizer. And I thought that was a really simple way to just start thinking about what they're reading. And I have not done this yet, but I'm really excited to try it. She just shared this with us a few weeks ago. And so once we dive in, we're going to do a novel here pretty soon. And I'm really excited to dive in. So something else that you can do after reading, if you have different characters, so say, or even just one character, I would say, you can make them create tweets that they think that their character would write in their story. So we read the book last year, Tumba by Maria Cañón, and my students wrote tweets that they thought the main character Henry would write when he was away in Venezuela. No, sorry. Let me try that again. We read the book. Oh my gosh, why am I sitting here blanking? What did we read? It was not Tumba. It's the one with the boogeyman in Venezuela. Oh my gosh.
Let's just go with Boogeyman in Venezuela.
Boogeyman in Venezuela. I'm like sitting here like I want to go over to my bookshelf and El Silbón. Okay, that's what it's called. And so we read that book, and Henry and El Silbón, the main character, goes to Venezuela because he wants to be a cowboy. And so they had to create tweets about what they thought Henry would tweet on his trip in Venezuela. And then I had another student say, well, I want to tweet from the perspective of the boogeyman. And I thought, that's kind of fun. That sounds great. So you can do it. I mean, again, with any character, it also doesn't have to be tweets. You can do Facebook posts. You could even do Instagram. So maybe students have to draw the scene of something that they read and then also create a caption of the scene of the picture that they post. I don't have a template of an Instagram one, but I know that there's a ton of free ones online that you could find. With summarization, I like to kind of differentiate this depending on the level that I'm teaching. So right now I'm actually only teaching Spanish 1. We have over 300 freshmen in Spanish 1 right now. So I teach about 150 of them. And when it comes to summarization, we actually started doing that today. And I just asked them to highlight and copy down the 5 most important sentences in the text. That's a skill that they need to be able to have. And for novice high and up, I would say to ask students to find the 5 sentences and then actually condense that information. Something I've learned, I would say relatively recent, is that I think I've been asking too much of my novice low and mid learners right off the bat, because last year I was asking my kids at this point to summarize and condense that information. But my students really don't know those, joining words. Like they know and, but they don't necessarily know but or while or with. And I have those up in my room, but creating sentences like that is actually something that's, more advanced if you actually look at the actual proficiency levels. And for Ohio and our standards, they are actually not expected to write sentences until kind of later on. And I was really surprised by that, but it says that they're able to list details. And so for me, having them summarize and just copying down the details that they find in the text does show me that, hey, I could find the most important things in this text. And then in writing, when you're doing more like presentational writing, then we can focus on actually conjoining and making shorter, more concise sentences about what we learned. But what I kind of caught myself doing was my focus here was really reading and reading comprehension. but I asked too much of them by asking them to then switch to presentational writing when that really wasn't the focus or even really my can-do statement of what I wanted them to do. So that's just a suggestion.
Yeah, I think, you had some good self-reflection there, because I would wager that most of us do that, where we're like, hey, I need you to read this, but then you should be able to write a sentence because it's in the sentence. You should be able to do it's two different skills. And I think you hit the nail on the head with, not differentiating like we know, but like they're separate skills. They're separate things to work on. So that's awesome. I sort of gloss over the whole students can make lists and pick out words, because I'm like, oh no, they can do more than that.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, they definitely, and the thing is, we actually had someone from the state of Ohio come in and give a PD, was it last Monday? And she said, yes, they can do more, but when your focus is reading, don't ask them to do more. They need to show you that they understood that it's for our standards, it's interpretive literacy. She said, your focus is on this standard right now. When you jump to writing, you haven't given them a lesson on writing. You haven't, given them that model text. That's not your focus. So yeah, definitely a lot of self-reflection. And it made me I was like, man, I feel bad for my kids last year, because honestly, in the years prior, because I have really, really pushed them, and not that I'm not pushing them, but not that I'm not pushing them this year, but I think just really being, diligent and intentional. I think intentional teaching is like my focus this year. I want to be really intentional with what my lessons are and what I'm asking them to do. So this one, I know I talked about last year, but this Netflix summary is fun, especially if you read a novel, but it also can work with even a short story. You turn the text into an episode if it's a short story, or a series if it's like a chapter book. And so the students, for each chapter, they would do, the chapter title would be the episode title. And then they have to write a summary of the chapter, just like Netflix gives us an episode summary. So this template, I don't know that I linked it, but it is sold on Teachers Pay Teachers. I don't sell it, but Profe Zulita does. She and I worked on it together, but at the time I did not have a Teachers Pay Teacher store. So I said, here you go, have a fun time with it. But this is available and it's super fun. Also, I mean, you can easily make this in Google Slides if you don't want to buy it. I totally get it. So this is, I think this is really fun, and the kids end up, if you do it with a book, the kids end up really liking it. And it's something that you can work on. Hi, thanks for joining. It's something that they can work on throughout the unit, or throughout the book. So they don't have to do it all at the very end. You could take some time to write and reflect on each chapter, with this Netflix project. So this is the bonus one that I wanted to share. And again, you'll have access to kind of look through the sketchnote like template. It's I did not make this. Our literacy coach here, she shared this with us, but my students right now are working on making sketch notes. And sketch notes, if I can like kind of.
And I think over the past like 4 or 5 years, there's been so much PD on sketch notes. And I've always wanted to go to it and be like, oh, these are cool. But I just don't know what to do with them. So I'm very excited that you're going to share this.
So sketch notes scares me in a language, because all of the examples that I see on sketch notes are of like, I would say upper middle school into high school kids reading novels like To Kill a Mockingbird or, The Great Gatsby, and they're reading those and they're doing sketch notes, and it's fantastic in the first language because it requires, some more advanced thinking in the language. So I was excited to see, I don't know if you can still, I clicked on something. I don't know what I clicked on. Okay.
We can definitely still see you and your screen. Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so I won't try to click on this anymore and exit out, but basically the students this template has they're called, I think they're like the boxes. I keep clicking on that tweet. That's what I keep clicking on. As I said, I wouldn't click on it anymore, but did. no, I just won't click on the tweet, but basically it has like the boxes that you would need to make your own like sketch notes template. Or you could actually, I mean, if you really want to let your like kids creativity fly, I mean, they could make their own if they wanted to. And then I print this out and give it to my students, but I'm gonna run up, I have an example. Let me run up and grab it in front of my room.
This is like real life teachers. We're like, hold on, I have that somewhere in my room. Let me go find it. I'll be right back.
Well, that, and now my lights turned back on, which is good.
I moved from a classroom that did the automatic lights to a classroom that didn't. And so I'm about 2 months into the school year and I still walk into my room and wave my arms and it doesn't turn on.
I hate these lights. It's like after like 10 minutes, so they're going to turn off again. So this is what my kids are working on right now. So we talked about 2 different races. We talked about the running of the bulls and we talked about La Carrera de San Silvestre. And so my students had to take the sketch note template that you see up there and draw half of the person that it would look like if they were participating in La Carrera, and half of the person if they were participating in the running of the bulls. And they had guiding questions that they had to be able to answer about each text. So here I wrote the questions that I wanted on mine because I didn't want to give them the whole answer. But they write the answers to those guiding questions in these boxes. So the most important thing is that you have to give them guiding questions to answer, but how they choose to depict and draw and show you their answer is kind of up to them. So there's a little bit of like freedom and creativity there. I chose to give my kids boxes because I wanted them to still have some structure, and I wanted to kind of make it easier for me to assess, but you absolutely could let their creativity fly. I might have even included an example. No, I didn't. But I know in this template, okay, here's where I'm not going to mess up again. There we go. So, and this presentation kind of tells you, what to do and the prep work that goes behind it, but it gives you the samples of the boxes that you can pick from if you want them to have connectors and dividers. There's a visual alphabet that they created and told you like how you can do it. I am not very good at that. That's the part of like the drawing stuff where I'm like, you know what, I'm good. And then this is like some of the examples that they had. And I think in the presentation notes of this Google Slides, there are links to actual student presentations. Also, if you Google sketch notes, you'll see a ton of websites that show student examples. So that's reading. Does anyone have any questions or anything to add, anything about reading before we move to listening?
Nope, I've been checking the box. There's nothing there. Does anyone want to unmute and ask a question?
So when you do the running of the bulls, like how much of the story are you giving them? And how are you presenting them the story?
Oh, a very little. So I use the Somos curriculum. So that is actually like, it's already written in there. But today we just talked about my target vocab is run, walk, and seize. So we talked about how we watched a video of the running of the bulls, and I kind of did like a movie talk where I showed it and I just showed them, they're running in the streets, the people are running in front of them, the observers are seeing. We talked about maybe why they participated in this, and so we just Googled a little bit of the history, and then my kids wanted to know how many people have died in the running of the bulls, which surprisingly is only 16 people since 1911, only 16 people. And I mean, they were shocked. So, I mean, just very little that like, this is an event and happens in Pamplona. That's kind of very surface level. So that's pretty much it. You're more than welcome to do.
Thank you.
I don't even know. I read a little bit about like the history of it. And I mean, everybody is free to just like give as much as you want, I guess.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Any other questions?
I don't see any, but y'all feel free to just unmute yourselves. We're a small little group that's pretty good with each other.
Yep, that works for me. All right, we'll talk about listening. So I'll be honest and say that usually my interpretive listening activities have not been fantastic. But I gave my kids an assessment. It was a listening assessment and reading assessment this year. I was blown away that their listening assessment scores were higher than the reading assessment scores. And that really shocked me because I totally thought, okay, they have tons of cognates in this reading. They're going to score really high in the reading. No, not at all. They did not score very well on this reading. That was like, this is a boy. The boy is at school. This is the boy's teacher. Like very simple. But then I gave them a listening activity over pretty much the same story, just a few details had changed, and they scored really, really well. So I was really surprised. So I kind of want to continue to enhance their listening skills. So I have been on the search and hunt to do so. So these are some of the things that I currently do with my kids. And the first thing is I started doing podcasts last year. And I started with my Spanish 2 students who really struggled with listening. So I really like this Stories by Senora one. I found it on Spotify, and I will, and I can share with Shannon the link to it. But this Stories by Senora, probably hundreds at this point of podcasts. And they range. I mean, it just really depends. But tons of topics that you can find. The Duolingo podcast exists, but has recently moved, and I cannot find it. They updated their website, and I don't know where it is. So I need to find if it has moved to a different website. But this one is definitely more for like more advanced learners, in my opinion. And then this new one is, if you have heard of Garbanzo from Martina Beck's The Comprehensible Classroom, this is brand new on Spotify, and it is for, right now it is mainly novice learners. And on her, oh, thank you, Shannon, for that link.
I'll post it for everybody too. I literally just Googled.
Okay, great. Because I used to just be able to find it in their website. I would click on it and it disappeared. So the Garbanzo is new as of, I think, August. And so they have a few episodes, and they actually give away free companion worksheets in their blog. So, I mean, it is, honestly, it's perfect if like you want to offer it even as like extra credit. You want to offer it as, I'm going to probably leave it as like a sub plan and say, you all have Spotify on your Chromebooks. This is what you're going to listen to. This is the worksheet that you need to complete it at your own pace. Another one, which is, I think, probably the most common, is Edpuzzle. And I like Edpuzzle because it typically adds visuals to support learner understanding. You can, any topic in there really exists at this point. And if you like a specific YouTube video and you want to make it for, if you want to make it an Edpuzzle, you can just copy and paste it into their activity builder. And it's really, really simple to make an Edpuzzle. But at this point, there's probably hundreds of thousands of Edpuzzles already created in all languages on a variety of topics. So
I find myself when I'm like, I really want to just give a video today, instead of going to YouTube now, I just go to Edpuzzle, because chances are it's there. And if you find one video, there's been like 15 different versions of it made. So it saves me a lot of steps. And I know Edpuzzle is definitely like old school, but it is such a good tool.
I hope Edpuzzle never goes away, because I don't know what I would do without it on some days, especially like, if you wake up sick and you're like, I can't leave, I don't know what I'm going to do. Find an Edpuzzle. It's pretty simple. All right, the next one is listen and draw. And this one takes a little bit more planning on your part. But I think it's really fun. So you can do this in a variety of ways. You can read a story and ask learners to draw what they heard. You could also do a directed drawing. So if you are maybe saying working on giving like directions or commands in your language, you could give a directive drawing where students are listening to you give directions on what to draw. It's also good for drawing like physical descriptions. So around Halloween time, we'll be talking about like physical descriptions. And I always give my students a directive drawing on drawing a monster. And then we do something similar around Christmas time, and they have to do a directed drawing and listen of a snowman. And then there's also one where I think it's free on Teachers Pay Teachers. If you look up snowman directed drawing, where it tells you how they have to hold a paper plate on their head and you tell them what to draw and they have to draw it while the paper plate is on their head. And then you have to compare and see who had the actual best snowman. So I really like that. I think it's good. It's creative. Definitely gets their ears working, and you can do it with story. You can do it with really anything that you want. And then this might be the last one, I don't remember. This is called Tally Away. So this is good for novice learners, or if you just want to kind of change up how many times, or change up like a traditional close activity with a song. So instead of filling in the blanks of a song, they can focus on just one word at a time and tally how many times they hear the word. This also works with grammar. So if you, for example, say you are working on like the imperfect, and in Spanish, like the imperfect has very like distinct endings. So we could ask the kids, okay, tally each time you hear an imperfect verb being used. Or you could do it with a song, you could do it with a reading, really anything. So I like to do that instead of just having them fill in the blanks of a song. I think sometimes that's really hard because it's not that they didn't hear it, it's that they don't have enough time to write it down. And then they kind of lose focus of what's actually happening in the song. So I have a few listening activities and a few reading activities that I have linked. And I do want to show these to you because I just recently found some of these when I wanted to make this and ended up, let me see. I know I found French listening activities. And then this Ed puzzle. This is for the Spanish people, and I'm sorry, French people, but this lady is called Cyber Profe, and she has listed Ed puzzles for like every single topic you could possibly imagine. And I just found this like 2 days ago, and I am shocked. Like, holy cow, but this has been in my life this whole time. And some of them she hasn't like finished, but you could definitely like search this YouTube video and see if anybody else has actually made the Ed puzzle before her. And she has them for all levels. And then
hey, Haley, did those align with the Somos? Are these just when
these align? So she has her own curriculum from what I see. However, if you go to her, I'm going to go to her website.
Can you drop the Wakelet in the chat box when you get a chance to?
Yes, I can, but they are linked in the slides.
Okay, never mind. Thank you.
Okay. Are you able to see this? Like it says bell ringer library. Does everybody see this? Yes.
Yep.
Okay. I just want to make sure I shared it right. So it looks like she uses, there goes my lights. Let's see. She has Somos units linked here. And then she has her own curriculum called Abierto. And then this shows like, this is what like her unit 1 bell ringer videos that she uses and this is what they include. So the only thing is that her website loads really slow sometimes because there's so many videos on here, but she uses these for bell ringers. She has some for readers. I don't know if this will load.
Super
And
cool.
then the Somos units as well.
That's amazing.
I know. I was like, where has this been all my life?
I need a sea bear puff. I'm just kidding.
Then let's see. This is a proud to be primary, so it's geared towards like younger kids, but what we know is that freshmen are actually just giant kindergartners, so it might work for them. I don't think any of these are going to load because I'm using quite a bit of Wi-Fi already, but this reading activity wakelet, this hopefully is linked. I think the internet might give me a problem, but they are linked in there for you to explore, and I'm going to post them on my blog, and then I'll also tweet them out because I want to grow these. Like, I don't want these just to be for Spanish because I'm probably going to get targeted. I'll get targeted all the Spanish stuff because that's what my that's what all I do is search for. But, you know, if Shannon finds things, or if Jen or Val, are you French?
Val is one of our 2 Russian teachers in Georgia.
Russian. Okay. Well, we can definitely add Russian. But I want these to be for all languages. So I'm trying to figure out the best way. I know Shannon suggested maybe I could create a Google form and people could just drop suggestions and I can add them. So these hopefully will be growing wakelets of tons and tons of resources. But the reading resources wakelet, that definitely I definitely have things for all languages in here, or it links to a website that has more than just Spanish. I'm not sure about Russian. However, I will hopefully try to be able to find some things.
Prepare for your technology department to shut down anything you look for in Russian. Happened to Val.
Oh, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised about that. I really wouldn't. So those are my activities. So I hope that was helpful. And
oh my gosh, I literally am sitting here. I'm like, how have you been doing this for like 12 years and you have forgotten all of these things? And what are you doing with your life? Go do the things that Haylee does. Thank you so much. That was wonderful.
I will tell you, I don't hold all of the information. So a lot of these things I have learned because we have a literacy coach here in my building. And if it were not for her being the most fantastic human being that you could possibly get asked for, she will send me things she will search on Twitter for you. She will make a Pinterest board for you. She is actually the one, she made me copies of this. Like, I could not do my job without her. So,
resource. That's amazing.
Yes, I'm very, very, very blessed, but I am very thankful that I'm able to share this wealth of knowledge that I have gathered from her and from other people with you guys. And I want to come back and learn more with you guys.
Oh my gosh. Well, we are super excited. We have, and that was a perfect segue. Come back. You can be a guest anytime, or you can be a participant.
I was gonna say, I'm going to be a participant. This is
oh my
fun.
gosh. Yeah. So next month may be a little bland because I think it's me, but here's what I'm going to ask for. We are doing something October 27th. It's interpersonal activities, which is a little bit scary because it's probably one of the things that I dread the most because it's like wrangling cats, but I've gotten a little bit better at it. So if you guys have anybody who's really good at these, let me know and I'll reach out so you don't have to listen to me blabber on the whole time. But in November, Joanna Arnold, who is a fabulous French and Spanish teacher, she does a lot of amazing community service stuff. She's a PBL school. She is fabulous. So you will probably love listening to her too. And I'm pretty excited that in December, I talked to Lisa Shepherd, who is like this amazing French teacher. She travels all over the country doing lessons and stuff. She's a French one. We don't get a lot of the French ones.
She lives 10 minutes from me.
She does not.
She does.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, she's fantastic.
She is, and she's just the nicest thing. She came to my school for a PL last April or May, and I was like, okay, I need you to come talk IPAs with my group because I get a concept of what they are, but I'm like, I need some more help, like with actual implementation of like IPAs as assessments. So I think that would be fabulous. So that's sort of like our overview for the next couple months. That'll get us to Christmas, you guys. Can you believe it's Christmas almost? Or I should say winter. It's not just Christmas, but it's almost like we're halfway through with our semester. We're doing report cards next week. I cannot believe how fast we're flying. I don't know if my screen is all messed up because I've got all these things going on. Sorry, but so here is what we are looking for. If you, my lovely Starlight people, if you want to host something, and Jennifer, that's pointed at you because I know you're fabulous. Yeah, sign up, host something, present something, just get your presentation exercises in before flag and sculpt and all of the different things that we go to. We would love to have you come present something. And also, if you've got anything that you want to share, that would be amazing. If you've got ideas, let me know. And if there's something that would be great for you in your teaching, let me know so that we can sort of tailor what we're doing. And I think that's it, you guys. We finished a little bit early, which is fabulous because I think you guys are as exhausted as I am. I'm like zonked. But this will be your attendance certificate. So if you need that for whatever you're doing, please feel free. Haley, I think I saw you scanning it. So
yes, I need it. I actually might need you to write just something like officially just saying that I was a presenter.
I definitely will. I will do that. All right, cool.
All right.
Scan me code up for a little bit. I need to figure out on Zoom. Thank you guys for Zooming. Let me stop the whole recording thing.
You're good. I'm gonna run back to my kids out in this hallway.
Thank you again, Haley.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye. Where do you do the security? Stop recording. Y'all have been struggling and just pausing. Hold on, there it is.